My name is Joe Penabianco, and I'm the President and CEO of Enact Home Mortgage. You know, many of us live in a world that is very different than the one we grew up in. Some of those things are better and some of those things are worse. An example is our inability to take for granted our safety at home, at play, where we worship, and where we work. So in the greater context of Enact's goal to provide more, we wanted to do a series on active shooter training. It is our hope, of course, that we never need this, but it is also our hope that should we need this, this training will either save your life or the life of someone you care deeply about. So thank you so much in advance for watching this. We hope it adds real value to your business and to your safety. And thank you, of course, for your continued support of Enact, its borrowers, its employees, and its referral partners. Have a great day.
Well, thank you for your attention. My name's Corey Jones. I'm with Safety Man Security Consulting, safetyman.co. I do active shooter training and readiness response training for businesses, churches, daycares, any place you have a lot of people. And today we're going to talk to you about how to keep you, your family, and your coworkers safe when we do active shooter training. So the first thing I want you to think about is, what are we going to learn today? And what we're going to talk about is run, hide, fight from Department of Homeland Security, what they want you to do if something happens. We're going to talk about accountability, how you know who's with you, where you go, and being able to report back to your supervisors the status of your crew. We're going to talk about what are first responders going to do when they show up to your scene. I could talk very intelligently about that because I did 25 years as a supervisor in the police department, some of which was SWAT, and we did a lot of training with local agencies and local schools and local businesses for active shooter and readiness response. We're going to talk about making a plan, communicating that plan, and then enacting that plan. So if something happens, regardless of whether you're with your family, with your friends, or with your coworkers, that's the mindset that I want you to be in. It's get off the X and have the mindset to make the plan, communicate the plan, and enact the plan. So what are the first responders going to do if they show up and there's an active shooter at your place of work? Active shooter training has migrated a lot from Columbine to today. So what they're going to do now is the first officer on scene is going to drive to the threat. He or she is going to make entry and move to the sounds of violence. Don't be surprised if that officer steps past you or somebody if they're injured, because stopping to help this person may mean that more people are going to get injured later, or that shooter could come back while the officer is not paying attention, rendering aid to you. So just be advised that the officer or officers will probably step past, over, or around you to go drive to that threat. How can you help them? Tell them where the threat is, what kind of weapons the threat had, and what he, she, or they are doing now. That actionable, timely, accurate intelligence can help save lives. People are really big on being able to help law enforcement drive to the threat. So continue with that endeavor. Remember, officers are going to drive to that threat. They're going to go to the sounds of violence so they can save lives and keep people alive. Now, de-escalation. Let's say somebody comes in to your place of work and you're not sure what's going on. Is it an irate coworker? Is it an irate client? Or is it somebody who's coming to do harm? We want to de-escalate, and look at my hand position right here. We want to de-escalate that person. If we can, do active listening. Look at the person, identify with the person, and do active listening so we can de-escalate that emotion, find out what the issue is, and see if we can work towards a solution. But remember this, you can always tap out to somebody else. You can always tap out to a supervisor, another coworker, another person in management that may have a better relationship or may have less emotion attached to that situation. So don't be afraid to be able to tap out and let someone else step in and handle it. So we want to de-escalate that person. While we're doing that, we want to get our coworkers out of the affected area. There doesn't need to be 15 people in a room while these two people are having a heated emotional discussion. So we want to de-escalate, move the person away from the exit, and have our coworkers or other people in the room exit that area, contact law enforcement if it's necessary, at minimum, contact a supervisor. So that's what de-escalation means. You want to calm it down and slow it down. So when we're talking about active shooter in a business, a specific location like you might find yourself right now, I want to tell you about a few incidents that happened not too long ago. There's 5 active shooter incidents that happened where unarmed civilians were able to counter the attacker and clearly save lives. Unarmed civilians. So we talk about run, hide, fight. That's definitely the fight part. I want you to have that mindset. I want you to make that mental decision now that you would fight somebody to save your life, the life of your family, your friends, or your coworkers. In those unarmed civilian cases, an unarmed civilian ran up and actually tackled an armed shooter. Am I telling you to go tackle somebody as your first choice? No, I'm telling you to have that in your toolbox, part of your plan. In another case, an unarmed civilian picked up office equipment and was throwing it at the shooter, chased him out of a house of worship, picked up a gun that the shooter dropped and pointed it at him, and the shooter left the situation. He wasn't ready for that. So just continue to have that in your mindset that that's a possible reaction to an active shooter incident. So what are some pre-attack indicators? How would you know that somebody may be planning an attack? Very rarely are these spontaneous attacks where someone is driving down the street and they go, I want to go shoot that place up. There's some sort of emotional attachment from the shooter to the intended target or victims. Former employee, current employee, client, student, some sort of attachment. And there's usually pre-incident indicators, surveillance, calling and testing the security, checking to see if there's cameras, checking to see who's at the front door. There's internet searches. There may be all kinds of pre-incident indicators. Now, if it's an employee, if it's an internal threat, you may have an employee who's recently had discipline, is about to have discipline. Maybe they're having personal, financial, substance problems. They may be having work problems. They may be having ideations of weapons, suicide. They may be doing Google searches or internet searches on their work computer about things that just don't comport with your normal business practice. So as a supervisor, as a coworker, as a friend, pay attention, report that information through the appropriate chain of command, whether you do it face-to-face or whether you do it anonymously. Because one, we want to help our coworkers, and number two, we want to prevent an act of violence. I don't want you to have to live with that. So get in the habit of taking care of each other and reporting that information up the chain of command. So if it's an external threat, you're going to have similar situations, but you just won't know unless you're showing up for work and you see the same car in the parking lot 2 times and it has nothing to do with it. Don't go up to that car. Report it. Call 911 or have a supervisor call. Don't go up to the car. 1, law enforcement doesn't get a chance to speak with them. And number 2, you put yourself in great danger if this person is going to do something harmful. So pay attention to your surroundings and report suspicious activity immediately. See something, say something, right? So you want to report that suspicious activity. Take care of your coworkers. Pay attention to what's going on at work. If you hear something strange in a conversation on the phone, you see something strange in an email or text message, report that information. There was an active shooting incident not too long ago where that happened. A person was getting ready to be disciplined, potentially fired. He came in and shot up the place and unfortunately killed 11 people, then got into a shootout with law enforcement. So protect yourself, protect your family, protect your friends, and protect your business. So I want to move right into run, hide, fight. An incident's actually happening now. How are you going to know first? Pay attention to your surroundings and listen. You may hear gunshots depending on where your office or workspace is located. You may not. If you do, trust your instincts. Start to put that plan together. Start to work on, am I going to run? Am I going to hide? Am I going to fight? And it's not 1, 2, or 3. It may be a little bit of all 3 of those when the situation happens. So you hear sounds of violence. You hear people screaming. Maybe the fire alarm goes off. Or maybe it's completely quiet and you're looking at the cameras and see some sort of scuffle in the front. Or people are just exiting the building. You look in a parking lot and people are streaming out of the building and you don't know why. Assume it's something life-threatening until you know it's not, and start to put your exit plan into action. So what did we say in the beginning? We want to make the plan, communicate the plan, and enact the plan. So whatever it is, fire, weather emergency, active shooter, workplace violence, whatever it is, make the plan, communicate the plan, and enact the plan. Okay, we've had reports of an active shooter in your workplace. What do we do? The first thing we have to do is make the plan, communicate the plan to everybody around, and then we have to put that plan into motion. We have to enact that plan. We have to make it happen. Whether it's going to be a run, get off the X, get out of the affected area, whether it's going to be hide, put those cell phones on silent, we're going to get down, get dark, get low, get quiet, or if we're going to be prepared to fight, you get the door, you get a weapon, you tackle them, you call 911, ready, move. And as fast as I said that is as fast as you have to make the plan, communicate the plan, and enact the plan. You practice it, take charge, speak loud, and get it done. You want to alert others without calling attention to yourself if you can. So if you know something and nobody else does, alert your coworkers, alert the supervisor. Even if you have to send a silent group text message, if you have to pick up a phone, if you have a walkie-talkie, send an email, whatever you can do, alert as many people as you can to the danger that is now in your workspace. Get out. The number one goal is to don't be where danger is. Don't be where danger is. Get out, take everybody with you that you can, but don't linger. Don't grab all your personal belongings. I suggest you try to take your cell phone, but don't grab all your personal belongings, and get out. Be prepared at any time you're in any one of these modes. If you're in a run mode, be prepared to be able to hide or fight at any second. You may turn a corner, enter a room, exit a room, or go down a stairwell and become face to face with that shooter, or hear that the shooter's coming to you, so then you have to hide. So you want to know your workspace, you want to know a few exits and entrances, and you want to know a few places where you could hide if you had to. You also want to know a few places where there's improvised weapons if you had to. Sprays, office supplies, a stapler, something heavy, something that you could use to defend yourself if you had to. Something that you could use to potentially smash a window, breach a door, barricade a door, or any of those things to keep you and your coworkers safe. Be prepared at all times. Text 911 if you can't call. If you can call 911, call 911. And if you can't say anything, leave your phone open and let the dispatchers, they're trained to listen to what's going on in the background. But if you can talk, if you only can say one thing, say your address. Say the address. Then say shots fired at that address. So say your address. If nothing else, get your address there and they'll start sending first responders to you. Police, fire, and EMS. The more calls that they get, the more notifications that law enforcement gets, the better likelihood you're going to get the resources on scene as soon as possible. So get that there. So if you're going to fight, you want to make that plan, communicate the plan, and enact the plan. You're going to fight as a team. You're going to assign people to help you fight. People aren't going to expect to walk into a room and they're thinking that they're going to have just innocent victims sitting there hiding. Well, you're not going to be that. So our mantra for active shooter response is make the plan, communicate the plan, enact the plan. So part of making the plan is we want to pre-plan. We want to cheat a little bit. We want to pre-plan. So what I want you to do right now is take about 15 seconds with your coworkers and identify 2 exits from where you are. Then identify 2 places anywhere in your office, your floor, your building, your workspace where you could hide. And then identify at least 2 improvised weapons, something you could use to defend yourself, to save your life. So go ahead and do that now. All right, so now we have our pre-plan. Now we've identified a couple places we could get out, a couple places we could hide, and a couple improvised weapons. Do that everywhere you go. You're at the mall, you're at the movie theater, you're at a house of worship, you're out to dinner. Just get in the habit of looking where the exits are, Look at where you could hide, bunker down with your family, your friends, your coworkers. And what could I use as an improvised weapon if an active shooter came in here and was about ready to hurt me or the people that I'm with? So I'm going to get into some specifics now. Run, hide, fight directly from Department of Homeland Security. When you're running, you're getting off the X, you're getting out. Whether you're at work, home, the mall, or any place, you're getting off the X, you're running. You're moving quickly. You've identified where you want to get to, and you want to go there and take people with you. I'm really stressing how I want you to be off the X. Don't be where danger is. Don't be in the middle of the crowd. If you can be on the side of the crowd or the other side of the crowd so you don't get trampled. That happened not too long ago. People thought that there was gunfire and there was a mass rush. There was no gunfire, but people got injured because of a stampede. So be careful when you're exiting. Move to one side or the other side so you can have a wall or something close to you. Keep yourself a little bit low, compact, wide stance so you don't get knocked over. Keep your hands up above your waist to protect yourself, to make sure you don't get hit with something. You're going to move with a sense of urgency and a purpose. And your goal is you're moving to get out of where danger is, or you're moving to another place to hide. So that's what running is. When we're going to run, hide, fight, we're going to take people with us. We're going to move off the X, move away from danger, move towards a safe place. If you encounter law enforcement while you're running, while you're exiting, make sure they can see your hands. Make sure you're telling them who the shooter is, describe the shooter, what kind of weapons are there, and where the shooter was last seen. And then follow the instructions of law enforcement. They tell you to put your hands up, they tell you to get down. Whatever they tell you to do, you do it. Don't make any sudden movements. Don't turn around quickly. Follow their instructions. Law enforcement is going to be extremely hyped when they get there. They're going to be focused on looking for guns and the shooter. So we don't want to do anything fast that's going to cause them to think that you're a possible suspect. So follow their instructions, let them see your hands, and move to safety. Give that intelligence. Let them know where the shooter is, what the shooter was doing, what kind of weapons you saw or heard, and who else might be in the building, if there's any injuries, anything that you can tell them. Your management will probably have a secondary location off-site for you to go to. Make your best effort to get there, secure that place, make sure that it's safe, and then wait for further instructions. Hide. So we're running, and maybe we have to hide. Maybe we can't run, or maybe in the middle of running, we had to then bunker down. We've already identified at least 2 places where we can hide. So think about, if you're going to hide there, what's the first thing you want to do is make sure your phone's not going to ring. Put your phone on silent. Make sure your lights are dim if you can. Make sure the curtains or blinds are closed if you can. See if you can barricade that door. One good way to barricade a door is to flip all the office furniture upside down on the inside of the door so somebody can't open it. If they do open it, they have to step over, through, and around all of that to get to somebody. Make it hard for them to do that. If your employer has installed additional locks or barricades on your doors, make sure you know how they function, what the protocol and the policy is on how and when to use them, and make sure you can physically engage it and disengage it in case first responders need to get in to help you or help your coworkers. So hiding is going to be low, quiet, dark, and barricade. At any time you're doing that, we're always thinking about a different part of the plant. If somebody does breach while we're doing this, the bad guy does come in, we've already got a plan of who's going to fight, how we're going to fight, what we're going to do. If all of a sudden an exit opens up and we can get out, we're not going to waste time hiding and barricading if we can get out. So you want to get out when you can get out. That's always your first goal, is to get off the X, get away from danger. When we're hiding, maybe we're going to text 911. If we're hiding and barricaded for some time, we want to send that information to our supervisors. So you can send a group text to your supervisors and tell them exactly, you, 1, 2, 3, 10 other coworkers, we're in this room, we're barricaded, and there are no injuries. Or there's me and one other person, we're in this room, we're barricaded, and there's one minor injury. Give that accurate intelligence to your supervisors. They may not be able to get back to you, but at some point, we want that information to get to the first responders So they know that they need to send help, where, and we can have accountability. Accountability is the second most important thing next to your safety, is accountability. So that's the hide piece. Run, hide. And at any time, we might have to transition from a run to a hide or from a hide to a run. While we're doing that, we have part of our plan is going to be to fight. We're going to fight as a team. We're going to fight together. We're going to fight with a plan. We're going to use those potential improvised weapons that we identified earlier if we have to. Remember, our first goal is always to get off the X, to get away from danger. But if we are faced with danger, danger's in our face, we're going to have to protect ourselves. Office equipment, improvised weapons, pens, staplers, a monitor, a chair, a table leg can all be used as improvised weapons. We could use a fire extinguisher as an improvised weapon. So anything that we can do to protect ourselves, to throw that shooter or shooters or attacker off his or her plan, that's our goal. We want to interrupt their plan, scare them, shock them, injure them, take them out of the fight so they can no longer hurt or kill you or your coworkers. Because that's what their goal is to get that maximum amount of people injured. So that's the fight piece. Make the plan, communicate the plan, enact the plan. You want to make that plan, determine what you're going to do, determine your plan B, if we have to run and then we have to fight, if we have to hide and we have to fight, and then let everybody know what the plan is in your group. If it's just you and one other person, or if it's you and an entire office or floor, we're going to have that plan and make sure everybody knows what it is. Accountability is always important when it comes to active shooter response. We need to be aware of where we are, who's with us, and everyone's status. That information always needs to be up-channeled or sent to our supervisors or our management according to your policy. We have to get into the habit of always having that information on hand, because the way the first responders are going to react is they will have a command post set up outside of this location, and they're going to be talking to people who are in charge of your workplace, and they're going to need to know if there's 100 people in there, what's the status of those 100 people? Did I get everybody out? Are they safe? If not, they need to know who to send in. They need police, fire, or EMS. Do they need medical? Do they need canine? Do they need bomb disposal? Do they need a SWAT team because there's a hostage situation? That information that you get out is timely, accurate, and actionable, and that's how we can work together to save lives. So accountability is a big piece of this. If you don't have it, make sure you have your managers, HR, phone numbers programmed into your phone. You can even set up a group. So in an emergency, you can just type in active shooter group and send that information. Have that set up right into your phone. You can just type right in your information and send it out. You can even include your GPS coordinates. Make sure you're aware of how to get to the secondary meeting location if you do have to evacuate. Make sure you know at least 1 or 2 entrances there. Make sure you physically go in there so you know what it looks like and what to expect when you're there. After the event, this event happened and now we're recovering from it. We're 5 minutes after, we're 10 minutes after it. Couple no's. Don't talk to the media. There will be media on location. They will want to ask you questions. What happened? What did you see? Are you okay? Is everybody you work with okay? We do not talk to any media at all. Human resources or your management will take care of that for you. Do not talk to any media. I would suggest you do not post anything to any social media. Any of the social media accounts that you may have, do not post anything other than maybe check in okay if you have people that are going to be worried about you. But don't post anything about the event on there. Investigators are going to want to speak with you. There could be legal issues if you post information that turns out later to be inaccurate. You could cause trauma to another coworker by inadvertently posting an injury that wasn't accurate. So don't talk to media. Be wary about what you post on social media. Your company is likely going to have human resources and counselors available for you. It is suggested that you definitely take advantage of that, at least 1 or 2 sessions, just to kind of talk about what's going on, make sure that you're recovering from it properly, because you have to take care of yourself. Some things affect people immediately. Some things may not affect people for a day, 2 days, 3 days. There's no way of knowing. Doesn't mean that you're a weak person if you take advantage of it. In law enforcement, we made it mandatory that if people were involved in a critical incident, they would talk to somebody at least 2 times. And then if they needed it more, they could go more. But we made it mandatory. So take advantage of that. You have to take care of yourself. You have to make sure you're recovering properly. And if you're not, that we can get the help to you as soon as possible. So take advantage of that human resources and early intervention programs that your agency may have set in place for you. Additionally, we don't recommend that you use alcohol or any drugs after an event like this. Get into your normal routine, go to bed, eat, wake up, go to the gym, whatever you need to do, get into that normal routine that you normally do. That will help you cope and recover from this traumatic incident. Now, that's self-care, buddy care. Emergency first aid. We have one of our coworkers, one of our family, one of our friends that's been injured due to an active shooter or an unexpected emergency. First, we're going to talk about CPR. The American Heart Association says that CPR now can just do hands-only CPR. You don't have to do rescue breathing anymore. Hard and fast in the center of the chest, 120 per minute. You can even go to the beat of this song, stand alive, stand alive. You'll never forget it now. Hard and fast in the center of the chest. You do it until the person regains consciousness. You do it until it is no longer safe to do it in that area, and then you have to leave. It is okay to move a victim to a safe location if you're in an unsafe location. It is okay to do that, providing that you can do it safely. So as long as the area is safe and the scene is safe, you always want to look and listen and make sure the scene is safe. You can do those compressions hard and fast in the center of the chest. What do we do for heavy bleeding, gunshot, stabbing, explosion wounds? The first thing we want to do is direct pressure. If direct pressure doesn't work, you want to elevate the wound above the heart if you can. Use gravity. If that's not working, we can use pressure points, which would be inside on the brachial or femoral arteries. Pressure points really hard to reduce that blood flow. But most likely, if it's a gunshot wound, a stabbing wound, or an explosion wound, you're going to be using a tourniquet. If you don't have an actual tourniquet, you can use an improvised tourniquet. A monitor cable, a keyboard cable, a phone charging cable, a purse strap, a belt. Any of those things can be makeshift tourniquets. You can YouTube, and I'll show you how to do it. But really quick, you would just wrap it around, pull it tight, 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 and go high, high, high. Remember with a tourniquet, high and tight, go high or die. High and tight on a tourniquet. So even if the wound is down here, we want to come high, close to the armpit as possible, as close to where the hips are as possible with a tourniquet. Go high or die. Tourniquets are safe. You're not going to lose the limb. They'll get you to a trauma center within 6 hours. You'll be fine. If you don't use a tourniquet, it's likely you're going to lose your life. So tourniquets are safe. Stop the blood flow. Once you put it on, don't take it off. Additionally, with gunshot wounds, you want to pack the gunshot wound with gauze. If you don't have gauze, you can use t-shirt, you can use clothing, you can use handkerchiefs. Pack that gunshot wound to stop that blood flow. Once you pack it, don't take anything out. Pack that gunshot wound. You can do both. Pack the gunshot wound, put a tourniquet on, text your supervisors, let law enforcement know, and continue to treat for shock until that person becomes unconscious. Then we would use an AED, a defibrillator, and CPR to keep that person blood flow circulating. So remember, we're going to do multiple steps. We're going to treat ABCs, airway, breathing, circulation. Pack it up, pack it in, pack for a gunshot wound. Go high or die on that tourniquet, high and tight, hard and fast in the center of the chest for CPR. We're going to continue to treat that victim as long as it is safe for us to be in that area. If you just become so exhausted you can't do it, then you have to stop. But we're going to continue to do it until they regain consciousness, until they no longer show signs of life, or it is no longer safe to stay in that area. So that's emergency first aid. So let's review what we talked about, what we learned today for active shooter. Some of the pre-incident indicators is somebody potentially conducting surveillance or probing or checking the security of your workplace. people are having interpersonal or work problems that could turn out to be workplace violence. You have an irate employee or an irate client who is on location or making threats via the internet or telephone. All those could be pre-incident indicators. We want to identify that and report that through our chain of command as soon as possible. We also want to talk about you having a pre-plan. Earlier, we had you look for 2 places to escape, 2 places to hide, and 2 potential improvised weapons to defend yourself. So we definitely want to make sure that we're pre-planning everywhere we go, whether it be when we're not at work or when we are at work. Have that pre-plan. It takes 10 or 15 seconds to do it. You have that information stored, then you can go about, focus on work or focus on enjoying your time when you're out. So we want to pre-plan. We want to talk about what's the goal of the first responders when they show up. They're going to drive to the threat. How can we make their job easier? By you listening to them, showing them your hands, identifying the information that you have about the shooter or shooters, what they look like, where they are, what kind of weapons, and then following the instructions of the first responders when they show up. Taken directly from Homeland Security, run, hide, fight. The goal is to get off the X, get away from danger as fast as you can, safely, taking people with you. We want to make that plan, communicate that plan, and then enact that plan. We want to tell people what's going on, where we're going, and direct them out. You may be the one in charge, so direct those people to safety. Take your phone. We don't want to take all the rest of our property. We want to get them to safety. If we're going to hide, we want to hide low, dark, and quiet. If we're going to barricade, we've already identified how we could barricade our hiding place. We're going to barricade. We can use all kinds of different things, desks, tables, chairs, additional locks that our employee may have provided for us. If we're going to fight at 100%. It's a last resort, but when we decide we're going to fight at 100%. We're going to attack the eyes, the throat, the ability to breathe, and the ability to stand. If we can, we're going to try to disarm that bad guy. We're going to fight as a team. You're going to have to make that plan, communicate the plan, and enact the plan. Direct people. I'm going to hit him high, you hit him low, you grab the weapon, and I'm going to use this improvised weapon. Ready? Move. And that's how we communicate, enact our plan to save our lives. If we're going to fight together as a team 100%. We have to always have accountability. So if we get to a secondary location, or if we barricaded ourselves in a location, we want to send a group message or phone call, or however we can get that information out to our supervisors, our management. Who is it? Where are we? And what is our status? What's the health of everybody there? Get that information out. It's the best way to make sure that law enforcement and first responder resources are used the best way possible. So we know where you are. We know that you're safe. We can focus on some other thing. We know that you're not safe. We can drive to get you help. So accountability is very important. We just went over emergency first aid. If you're not Heart Saver certified, you can go online and take courses to get you Heart Saver certified so you know CPR. But remember, hard and fast in the center of the chest, 120 per minute if you can. Continue to do that CPR until it is no longer safe, until the person gains consciousness, until you're relieved, or until they no longer show signs of life. How do we treat gunshot wounds? Massive bleeding. We want to pack that wound. Direct pressure, elevation, pressure point, a real tourniquet, failing a real tourniquet, an improvised tourniquet, cords, cables, belts, purse straps, any of those things can be used as a tourniquet. Go high and tight with that tourniquet, make it tight, and then get that information out that we have a severe injury, bleeding, tourniquet was applied, so we can get first responders to come help you. Report suspicious activity immediately to your employer. Report it immediately to your employer. Don't you get involved in it, report it immediately. And then finally, I want to finish with talking about de-escalation. De-escalation. We are in a situation, we have an irate client, we have an irate person on location. Remember, if you're talking to that person, empathetic listening, active listening, de-escalate, work towards a solution. If you are no longer effective, tap out to another employee, another supervisor, another manager who can then take over. Meanwhile, we're getting the rest of the coworkers or the people in the affected area away, and somebody's alerting law enforcement that we have this situation. So de-escalation is active listening, distraction, getting the person focused on you so other people can get out of the affected area, alerting a manager to come potentially take over, and if we think we need it, notifying the first responders to come in and have this person removed from the property. So that's that de-escalation and active listening portion. Thank you for your attention. So again, my name is Corey Jones with Safety Man Security Consulting, LLC, safetyman.co. If you'd like more information on how to get this training, where you can have Safety Man come to your office and we can actually do the run, hide, fight. You can actually see how to do emergency first aid. We can walk together and identify places to barricade, to bunker, multiple exits, office weapons, how to make the plan, communicate the plan, and enact the plan. You can email me at Corey, C-O-R-E-Y, at safetyman.co, or call me 609-975-9275, or go to safetyman.co for specific training, one-on-one with Safety Man in your office.